What's going on, everyone? We've got to talk about set 6 as it has been fully revealed, and we've already had a lot of people, as the title of the video suggests, really start to hammer on set 6 for its power level and what it might be capable of. Now, obviously, a lot of you out there, the majority of you, I imagine, haven't even got to play with these cards. So I'm sure seeing stuff like that out in the open is already a little bit of a damper on things. So I want to kind of explain what my perspective is on set 6 so far and how I've been feeling on it and what the potential of this set truly is, because I think this is indicative of what FFG wants to go with in the future for Star Wars Unlimited. So with a big thank you to my patrons over on Patreon, which we have absolutely gotten to blast some set 6 games, and we're even going to be doing, and I haven't announced it yet, so maybe this will be the first announcement for my patrons too. We're going to be trying to do a pre-release over there, so it's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to be able to dive into the set 6 cards. But as you all have seen from the channel, if you've been watching my videos regularly, there have been a lot of set 6 decks, and as of today, I have played literally every single one of these leaders, with the exception of Cassian, and in some cases, multiple times. Out of my favorites so far, Padme is certainly up there. Daedra and Dryden are the three that I've really paid attention to. Now, this isn't really a ranking video or anything like that, but the biggest complaint is the power level of this set. And honestly, if we're going to talk about the power level of cards, it's pretty low. It is pretty low. When I'm building decks along all of these different leaders, for example, if I were to build a Padme deck, it's not like I'm actually getting the reveal part of the Padme leader all that often. I'm not playing cards from set 6 to trigger Padme oftentimes. Oftentimes, as you all saw from my Padme video, you play cards like R2-D2 from set 3, or Poe Dameron from set 2, or Merrin from set 5, and you have some amazing synergies. The power level of the cards come from the previous sets, and they synergize, if you're building the deck, with the abilities that you currently have. Take, for example, Governor Price. It's not that you're really creating a bunch of spy tokens and trying to ready those up. Instead, the power typically is in trying to create at least space units and put pilots on them, space tokens, and getting value that way. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't cards that are exceptionally powerful in general. For example, a card that I've found to be reasonably powerful so far is Chancellor Palpatine, coming in from the resource pile on 3 resources. But realistically, decks like Chancellor Palpatine as a leader, or leaders that are going to be revolving around the synergies from set 6, aren't really there yet. As far as we've seen, that doesn't mean Chancellor Palpatine isn't going to be able to be played. Where you can play cards, you can get a little bit of value out of plot, but there isn't really a whole lot of plot cards available, and that's with the completion of the set. Or like Mon Mothma, there just isn't a whole lot of payoff to see with aspect penalty reduction. You can play all the officials, non-villainy officials that is, but there's not really a big payoff for that, very similar to Hera, and that's just because we don't have enough officials to really utilize that. And the same thing goes for a lot of leaders on here. And again, if we dive into the cards here and we go through a lot of the cards in the Secrets of Power set, a lot of these cards just don't really do a whole lot. And they're not really something that you want to slot into decks that you're currently using. There are a few, gems for sure. There's no doubt. I mean, that is part of every set, right? There's going to be a few cards that actually look quite excellent. Cards that, will fit in every deck. Something like an Imperial Dark Trooper, I'm sure, will fit in a lot of villainy command decks. Or a card like Chancellor Palpatine, I'm sure that it'll find a spot. Mina Bonteri has been pretty solid. That one's probably going to find a spot in a lot of different decks. There are, like I said, a lot of different cards that are reasonably powerful enough to find a spot in the meta. The issue with this is there's not a lot. There's not a lot of cards that seemingly are, at first glance at least, doing a whole lot for a lot of people. I think really the, cards that seemingly are going to make it are a lot of these cards in the heroism aggression style, cards like Karis or Valiant Commando or even Academy Disciplinarian. I think there are some cards that have a good amount of potential, but I think the biggest thing is a lot of people are disappointed with the overall power level of the set, especially coming off of set 5, where the leaders might not have been like excellent, but the cards and the effect that this had on the meta has been amazing. And we're coming off 2 sets that both had pretty large impacts on the meta. Jump to Lightspeed and Legends of the Force both had pretty large impacts on the meta. And if we harken back to set 3, Twilight Republic, where we did not have a large impact on the meta, that set's looked at as one of the worst sets in the game. Even though set 2 had a worse release, in my opinion, the power level of set 2 is still higher, and so people appreciate that set more. But this is where I say, okay, if the power level of the set's not as high, there isn't as many cards that kind of fit into what we're already seeing in the meta and the decks that we already have constructed, well, the next thing we can look forward to is rotation, which is a lot of, controversy around it. There's a lot of people that absolutely hate the rotation and the idea of it, and there are a lot of people that are really looking forward to it. As of myself, I am looking forward to it. I am someone that has played in a lot of card games that has had a regular rotation, so I think it's going to be a lot of fun in the game. It's going to shake things up, which I am excited about. But on that note, we're going to have the first 3 sets rotate out, as I'm sure everyone knows, if you know about rotation. What that means is the example of this set is probably going to be the theme that FFG follows in the future. And what do I mean by this? Well, this set really has a focus of deploying things to the board, letting you action cheat, and letting you get value out of your resources, and using those resources to give advantages while giving your opponent information. That's kind of like the major themes of the set. But it's really based around a board-based gameplay. And what I mean by that is you are deploying things to the board, or you're putting things on the board in various different ways to actually continue the game. If you look at a lot of the decks these days, yes, you play units. I mean, that is mainly how people win, right? But there is a lot of interaction that doesn't involve the board. And there are some games that are really, really light on actually deploying units to the board. And there's not really a whole lot of go wide strategies. And this is something that FFG really did not like anyways. We already know that they want to focus on a mid-range, no control, no aggro meta, where we're just kind of battling it out with our units. And this set really hammers that home, I think. And it does it very well, right? Generating spy tokens and getting value from that, and going along your path and getting value from your resources when you've utilized all your cards in hand by disclosing them and maybe discarding them, whatever it is. That's kind of the game plan. And so what I'm expecting to see is with rotation, we lose a lot of cards that interact with the board. What we don't really lose are all the cards that are going to be really pumping up this go wide, deploy to the board, get your strategy running, and then use that to win type of strategy. I mean, a perfect example of this is a card that I've been trying to really utilize lately, and I think is a great example of kind of what FFG wants out of the meta. And I guess they're right next to each other. There's 2 here. First off is Major Partagaz. This is an absolutely sweet card. I absolutely love playing with this guy. He is a ton of fun. But he does almost nothing in a lot of the decks these days. Because 1, he can just be removed straight up. But also 2, it is very difficult to attack with multiple units on the board, because your opponent will have these big, huge events that are going to wipe the board on you, or units that are constantly going to be hitting down their units, but just a little bit more valuable, right? It's not going to be about, creating a bunch of units. It's about that one unit that's taking over the board. Or removal, or a card like Vice Admiral Rampart, where yes, you can go ahead and play him and can attack, but you're almost never getting 2 experience tokens. That is very, very rare. Getting 1, not unlikely. Getting 2 is almost impossible. So cards like these just don't really do a whole lot in the meta. And the reason that is because we have these big, huge events that interact with things, and decks that really incentivize having a lot of interaction and being able to manipulate your game plan to counter your opponent's game plan, instead of just coming in with your game plan of your own and trying to enact that a little bit better than your opponent. I'm not saying that what, the meta is right now is a bad thing, right? That is actually something I'm far more used to as someone who majorly played Magic beforehand, which was like pure interaction, interacting on opponents, even being able to play something, right? But FFG has never liked it. They've never liked it. They never liked the power of the dark sides. They never liked the controlling decks with just events. They've never liked the hyper aggro decks where you can't actually deploy your game plan. And so I think with the rotation, we're going to see a lot more strength out of this set, to where you can do maybe some of the more dirtly things with Masamita or Vice Admiral Rampart and trying to get a bunch of attacks in with Major Partagas, and then getting a big Major Partagas, right? But until then, I think we're going to see a little bit of a quiet release. There's going to be a few cards that we're going to slot into decks. There's going to be a few leaders, I'm sure, that may have an impact on the meta. And then there's not really going to be that force level of impact or the jump to light speed level of impact. We're going to see, not necessarily pilots, but good space units all over the place, or good, force cards and force payoffs all over the place. It's just going to be a little bit more of a quiet set. And I think that's okay. Honestly, this looks like one of my favorite draft formats. Like, just initially, my initial impressions of it. I've played a couple of like mock drafts already against like bots and such, but I think this is going to be one of my favorites, absolute favorite limited formats for the game. So if that's something that you are excited about, hopefully, you're going to be able to get a good time in. And that's because there's a lot of like really interesting things that you can do, and a lot of synergies and a lot of cards that really don't have their place in the meta until you start talking about a limited setting. I think of the whole set, there are a lot of fun things that I've been able to do, but a lot of the fun things that I've been trying to do to work with some of these leaders just don't function right now. And I think that's the major issue. And again, I think that's really going to change over rotation, because I think that we're going to see a lot of difference in kind of how the game might be built. Not saying that this is going to be 100% true. I don't have early access to set 7, 8, 9, whatever, right? I don't know what the cards are going to be like when they release, but we already know what FFG stance is. And I know how this set has felt. And I'm sure a lot of people who have also played this set has felt kind of the same thing, in that some of these cards just don't really feel all that powerful in comparison. And we haven't really seen all that much powerful, kind of that interaction piece to it be printed. I mean, if you think about rotation, we're losing Takedown, Fell the Dragon, Rivals Fall, Power of the Dark Side, Overwhelming Barrage, Super Laser Blast. I mean, that is an incredible amount of cards that are being printed. I mean, they have not printed anything close to Super Laser Blast at all. Invasion of Christophsis is not even close. Nebula Ignition is not really close. I mean, this is like a crazy rotation. And so I know I'm talking about it, and we haven't even had set 6 release, but I just wanted to give you all kind of that, this I guess, glimmer of excitement, because I do think there's a lot of fun things to do about set 6. And even though the power level's lower, there are a few things here that I'm having an absolute blast with. I mean, the first real infinite combo has showed up. There is a bunch of like synergy pieces that have been absolutely fun. Getting to run in things with like a new Hera, or doing some silly things with Bail Organa, or going all in on some upgrades, Lamasu, having Jabba Yellow ambushing out and just doing some crazy things with that. There's been a lot of fun stuff about this set, but I just don't think it's very powerful. And I think a lot of people take that and just, wow, set 6 is bad. So I don't necessarily think that this is a bad set. I just think it doesn't really have its time to shine right now. And I could be wrong, right? Again, there's going to be a whole slew of the next month or two where people are going to be drafting or like, kind of creating deck archetypes and all that good stuff, which I'm excited to see what people come up with. I've just been playing the things that have intrigued me and, kind of the synergy elements that I've seen. And I'll be doing my rankings, my tier list, all the same and I will continue on with all the different strategies that I want to go with. And I know a lot of you have had a lot of fun, asking me about, how these decks come about. And so we'll see what the community finds out, and we'll see at the end of the day how big of an impact this truly has. But as kind of a response to what I've been hearing a lot in the community, I just wanted to give you all my thoughts on this topic. Let me know what you think about Set 6 so far, and if you've played it at all. If you haven't played it all, but you've been tracking spoilers, or whatever it is about Set 6 that you have heard / played, in the comment section down below. What's your favorite leader so far? Is there a mechanic that you find very fun? I've really enjoyed a lot of the leaders here. And honestly, Dryden really has been my absolute favorite. There's something about Ambush that is just super fun. But I can't get over the Treo combo. That is probably the #1 moment in all of Star Wars Unlimited so far. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you all for the next one.